So I went to one of those Planned Parenthood pro-choice protests. That's a tongue twister. There were speakers there doing what they do, like preaching to the choir. And there were free shirts and free signs, as you can see with all these signs that look the same. No way this many people make their own signs, of course. And after the speakers all spoke, we went and marched a couple blocks, apparently to some important buildings, but I'm not sure what they are because I'm not super familiar with Baltimore. There were three speakers there that I actually remember. One of them was this trans guy, and because he's a trans guy, that just automatically makes him memorable. One of them was one of those I hate white men types, which is always fun, it's just a thing that happens when you're going to protest in favor of people's right to regulate their own bodies. Somebody's got to be there to talk about how bad white men are. The last one that was actually pretty compelling was this one woman who, as a result of her pregnancy, had, a suppressed immune system, because that's what pregnancy does to a woman. And because of that, some virus that usually causes cold sores, so I don't know, I guess herpes, started to blind her. And so her right eye was going blind, and she was not able to get health care because as a pregnant woman, the doctors couldn't touch her. So she basically had to get an abortion, and as soon as possible, because her vision was getting worse and worse. She was throwing up and she was passing out and all that stuff. But she couldn't go to an emergency room because the emergency rooms only allow you to do an abortion if you're miscarrying. And obviously she couldn't wait around for a couple weeks to schedule a regular old abortion. So she was kind of stuck. And it took some sort of non-profit thing to actually help her get the abortion she needed. And it turns out, based on further evaluation, that could only happen after she got the abortion because the doctors weren't allowed to touch her. That had she not gotten that abortion and come to the doctors, she would have died. And to stress this, we did not know how much danger she was in at the time. Nobody knew until after she got the abortion. And it turns out this virus that usually causes cold sores was about to kill her. It already left her blind in her right eye to this day. Imagine that, being taken out by herpes. And that's why these laws that say you can only have an abortion when the mother's life in danger or stuff like that is not going to do enough to save lives. There's just too much red tape in the way. There's just too much time and energy that it takes, and a lot of these times it's emergencies that need to be done like within 24 hours, like in this case. So abortions need to be readily available to anybody with a minimum amount of paperwork, because otherwise people are discouraged from having abortions when they possibly really, really need one. Now, I'm not a feminist. I've never been one, and I've criticized feminism many times on this channel. But that doesn't stop me from being pro-choice, and it doesn't stop me from being pro-women's rights. I don't need to agree with everybody at this event. In fact, I mostly come at this from an anti-natalist angle. I think it's immoral to have children because people don't ask to be born. It's like a clear violation of people's consent to force them into this shitty and coercive world of ours. Obviously, it's not a political winner or really moral to be able to force women to have abortions when they don't want to, so being pro-choice is basically the next best thing. The other angle that I come at this from is the men's rights angle. In fact, I care a lot about men's rights, and what this does when you illegalize abortion is you legally put culpability on men for impregnating women. Because when usually you have abortions freely accessible to all women, it's their choice whether they want to stay pregnant or if they want to end the pregnancy. So men, at least in theory, have some sort of right to say, well, it's not my choice, it's not my responsibility anymore, so if I don't want to support this child, then it's up to the woman to support this child, maybe with help from the state. So this is the concept of the paper or financial abortion, where because women have the final say completely over whether or not they have children, men do not have to be held responsible for the pregnancy. I do not want to live in a world where a man can be raped by a woman and then forced to pay child care for his rapist because his rapist decided to go ahead and have the child. But you can't make this sort of argument unless abortion is legal and accessible. I do want to discuss some reactions to the news that Roe v. Wade will soon be overturned. So, first of all, the backlash to the leak is just nonsensical. I mean, people are angry for knowing more. There is no reason to keep the deliberations by the justices secret. I mean, this is not some classified document where exposing it to the public would leak information vital to the American, security state or military and reveal all their plans to potential adversaries overseas. Like, no, this is a domestic issue. We have a right to know what's going on in our political institutions. And, of course, the Supreme Court is a political institution. Anybody who pretends it's not is a joke at this point. Regarding the responses to the protests outside the justices' houses and outside the senators' houses, like, Republicans who are melting down over this is clearly anti-free speech. Like, it's in the First Amendment that we have the right to peacefully assemble and protest and petition the government. But Republicans are pretending that these people drawing on the sidewalk, politely asking their senators to vote to codify Roe v. Wade, they're pretending like these people are terrorists or some sort of threat to the safety of policymakers, which is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, politicians should fear the people. That's kind of how democracy works. You have to align the interests of the politicians with the interests of the constituents. What's good for the citizens should also be good for the politicians. Otherwise, that's a key to corruption. Obviously, it shouldn't escalate to the level of violence. After all, these Supreme Court justices who, with the stroke of a pen, will cause the deaths of thousands of women, why should they have to fear for their own safety based on a simple decision about the human rights of millions of people? No, that makes no sense at all. But it's worth remembering that Republicans, despite all their complaints about big tech billionaires being a bunch of communists or whatever, they do not care about free speech. They do not care one bit. They just want to be the censors rather than the censored. And you can tell because, for example, in Florida, it would be legal for a car to come here and just drive into the crowd of protesters and kill hundreds of people. And a person who did that would not be prosecuted in Florida because Ron DeSantis wants to encourage people to do domestic terrorism against peaceful protesters, and that's how you can have a chilling effect on the right to free speech and the right to peaceably assemble and protest. This is why Republicans are melting down about some supposed threat to the safety of officials. If they are able to convince us that peaceful protesters are somehow dangerous to the public safety and bad for the social order, that's how they justify bringing in riot police and tear gassing protesters and doing mass arrests and just crushing dissent in general. The idea that Republicans are for freedom of expression, freedom of action, and freedom of speech is the biggest mind trick that has ever been played on the American people. Republicans go on and on about how they love freedom, but they don't like choice very much, do they? As we speak, Republican policymakers are changing election laws so that they can override the choice of their electorate and send in alternate slates of electors to the Electoral College and help Republicans steal the election of 2024 or whichever election that they need to steal. American democracy will not survive under the leadership of a fascist party. Because we lost the 2016 election, Republicans have been able to install Supreme Court justices who will be able to help overturn the election and steal it for the Republicans based on a technicality the same way they did in 2000. We have very little margin for error. That's why we all need to vote for Democrats. As much as Democrats suck, they are the meat shield that we are building between us and fascism. Continue to protest. Canvass for your political candidates. And remember, you don't always have to agree with everybody you work with to achieve a goal. It is not merely enough to be correct and wait for the history of the world to just naturally bend in the right direction. You have to make it happen yourself. I want to pet that dog back there again. That dog was so cute. Not holding up well? Is it soggy?
Abortion is a right. We won't give up a right. Abortion is a right. We won't give up a right. Abortion is a right. We won't give up a fight. Abortion is a right. We won't give up a fight. Abortion is the right. We won't give up a fight. Abortion is the right. We won't give up a fight. Abortion isn't right. We won't give up the fight.
Hey, we're back on Gay Street. I love Gay Street. I've been on Gay Street this entire time. Abortion is a right. Fight, fight, fight. Abortion is a right. Abortion is a right. What? I like bumping into people. No.
Abortion is
Healthcare.
Abortion is
Healthcare.
Abortion is healthcare.
Another dog.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare. Healthcare.
Run abortion rights Congress! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Run abortion rights Congress! Jack, what do we do?
Stand up and fight.
What do we do?
Stand up and fight.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Yeah. Back on Gay Street. I'm not cut out for this cheerleadership.
Abortion bans have got to go.
What's going on there? Are we just walking in a circle or something? What? Is it? I mean, if it is, I mean, we are that way, so. We went southeast, right? So we have to go northwest. So yeah, we are that way, that general direction.
Why did you come from that side of the building?
Wait. Oh no, we are. Maybe it's that way. I don't know. I'm directionally challenged. Do you want to go? Oh.
I'm going to ask again for everybody who can hear me. When I say hands up, you say? One more time. Hands up. All right. And now the dance party begins. I want everybody